Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, Happy New Year and welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined, finally, for this episode by none other than Kelly George, who played Ray Haynes. Kelly,
I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter.
Welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
I'm glad you have me.
Brilliant. Well, what we'll do, Kelly, is we'll start this episode the way we start every episode. And if you could tell us how you first got into acting.
So I was a bit of a tearaway at school,
Right.
and I come from a boxing family, and I kind of was sort of falling into that realm, really. And I wouldn't say I was with the bad people, but I was kind of on that periphery of not being right. And my mum just happened to say to a friend of hers, about me, and they said, there's a dance school up the road, and maybe Kelly should come there. And literally, all my job was they wanted me to stand in a room with ballerinas, and as they came past, I just picked them up and moved them. That's it. That was basically my thing. And then my drama teacher, a guy called Mr. Carey, he saw something in me, and I don't know what, because I didn't see it in me, and I ended up playing Dodger in our school play. And then at this dance school, this guy was going for an audition. I didn't know what an audition was. I didn't know anything about the acting career. My family aren't in it. So I went along as his friend, and I ended up getting it. And I was one of the boys in Oliver.
Right.
Well, first of all, I went to the front of the queue and I said to the guy, how long are we going to be here? My mate's been waiting. And he said, well, what number are you? I said, well, I'm not auditioning. My mate is. And he went, well, I think maybe you should. And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? So anyway, and so I ended up being one of the boys, and then I ended up being Charlie Bates, and then I ended up playing Dodger in the West End.
Wow.
And that's when that's when Sylvia came knocking. My best friend, a guy called Russell Nash, was in it with me, and he said that I should talk to Sylvia, and he brought her along, and that was it. The rest is history.
Brilliant. And so, who were you? Is there anyone you were at school with that we would know?
Do you know what? It's like I had a year of just complete surrealness. So 1 minute I'm sitting in my usual classroom, and and I was a Grange Hill fan at the time, and so I had Melissa on my wall. I had Lisa York on my wall. Simone Himes was on my wall. And within a year, I've got Simone sitting 2 seats across from me in my class. Sarah McGlasson was in my class. Wow. Fiona Mogridge, or Lee Fraser, as you guys know, she was a year above me, 2 years above me. Joe Kenny was one of my real good friends. I mean, all the Grange Hill people. But I was one of the, and it was just crazy. I mean, I never really spoke to Simone the whole time I was there because I was so nervous.
Right.
Because, she was on my wall, and 3 months earlier, I was just some kid, some bum running around the street. And now I'm sitting next to her in class, and it was a real surreal kind of, what the hell has happened to me here? And I mean, I just lived that. It was great. It was such a great time, and it happened so quick for me. So I had lots of. I grew up with a lot of famous people, and I've had some. And as I went through my career, I've remained friends with some very, very, very high profile people that have gone on to some phenomenal things. So
brilliant. And did you get much work in them days?
I just never stopped.
Right.
I was one of them. I was just the right kid at the right time. There was no talent.
Right.
You
can't say that.
I don't know. I never stopped. I was a regular in Howard's Way. I was a regular in Tory and June. I got a contract with the BBC. I got a 5-year contract at the BBC when I was 13. Wow. And basically, if they wanted some little scrote to come in and play something, that would be me. I'd get a phone call. My friends at school, the door would open, Sylvia would walk in, and they'd go, "Well, we'll see you tomorrow," and off I'd go. And I was
Yeah.
just very lucky, very
Right.
just right place, right time, and yeah, I just and I flew all over the world, done films, done TV, done theatre, worked for the RSC. I just was lucky, just really lucky.
Brilliant. And you mentioned some of the things you didn't mention. You didn't mention who say me say, which
Yeah. Well, so who
kind of
said
in the
me?
Grange Hill vein, but like more
Well, that was the
funnier, I
idea.
think.
So
Yeah.
what happened was ITV had been saying that Grange Hill was the thing. We all
Yeah.
know that, and it was and ITV were very keen at the time to try and get a series uh, that would rival Grange Hill.
Yeah.
And Who Said Me Said was good fun. It was great. I had a really good time on it, but it was never going to take on Grange
No.
Hill. But of course, later on in life, ITV hit it big with
Yeah.
Press
Yeah.
Gang. Dexter Fletch was in that, a good mate
Yeah.
of mine. And Paul, I know all the guys from that as well. So
Maluki was in that as well, wasn't he?
Maluki, yeah.
Yeah.
So I never really got to meet Maluki
Right.
because I wasn't on Press Gang.
Yeah.
But I obviously Paul Reynolds, Dexter Fletcher, all
Yeah.
those guys were good, and I'm still really good mates with all those guys now.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Love all that. Love that. Now, we know it's Grange Hill, and the diehards of Grange Hill will know that you were in it twice as two different characters. However, yeah, but your very first link with Grange Hill that I know of was in the Drug Watch. It's Not Just Zammo.
Yeah.
Where it was a section on peer pressure.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nick Ross was present. He stitched you up a kipper there, didn't he? On that one.
It was a good day. It was quite good fun actually. I mean, obviously I was in Grange Hill as a St Joseph's boy.
Yeah.
And then I got asked. At the time, I had my girlfriend was in Grange Hill, so I used to go and pick her up.
Right.
And while I was there, they were doing a photo shoot for a magazine, and I ended up doing. While I was there, they said, "Kel, do you want to just do this?" So I ended up doing. It was for one of the annuals, so I did this photo shoot while I was waiting to pick up
like a photo story type thing.
Yeah, they had the annuals back then,
right.
the Grange Hill annuals and stuff. So I was in one of them. But yeah, the drug thing, it was all to do with, as you know, about the peer pressure.
Yeah.
So what they did was, it was really clever. So they said, "Oh, we're going to split you up into groups." So I got split up with three other people. So there was four of us. And we didn't know that everyone else wasn't taken aside. It was just us four.
Right.
And they just wanted to see if everyone else said something, if you would copy. And they said at the end that they got the four they felt were strongest characters. They didn't go for the weak. They felt they didn't want to go for kind of weak people that would follow the crowd. The ones that would stand up and go no, which I've always been one of them. And they got me. Yeah, they got me.
So for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, it's a section where Erkin is playing the drums. Erkin, who played Roland, is playing the drums. And
badly. Sorry, Erkin.
He'll listen to this,
I love him. He's a good mate. It's fine.
And everyone's asked to count how many beats Erkin plays. And it's clear that he plays 12. He plays 12, but every kid that's listened says 13, and you're the last one they ask. And you said 13 as well, because everyone else has. But when it's explained to you what's happened, you actually said, no, I knew he'd only played 12, but everyone else said 13, and it's really clever. The way
it was really clever the way they done it, because they took four of us.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were going to see, and I think I was the third. I think the first two didn't say the right number.
Yeah.
And I was the third one, and I did.
Yeah. It's so clever how they done it. Like,
it was.
And like you've mentioned being in Howard's Way, and you did Bergerac and the Little Match Girl film as well, and Mac the Knife. You were in. Now, when I looked at those, like the casts of those films, when you're that young and you're in a film, you're in something with the likes of Raoul Julia and Roger Daltrey and Dorothy Phillips and Stafford Johns, are you aware of like how big they are and how famous they
are? Yes and no. Right. I mean, you I think it's the people around you, because I go on set and you don't really know who they are or what they are, and then you get the kind of vibe from the adults, and I mean, it's hot. You know, you were saying earlier about it's hard because from sort of 11 years old, I've only grown up with celebrities.
Right, I get
And
you.
so
Yeah.
where you went to school and you say, "Oh, I'm down the road with my mate Bob. Do you remember Bob?" And I go, "Oh, well, I was down the road with Raul Julia." And they go, "Show off." And it's like, well, it's not. I'm just kind of those are the people I grew up with, and
Yeah.
I got on very, very well with Raul. I still speak to Roger Daltrey a lot. My claim to fame is he taught me to play squash.
Right.
So I still see Roger every now and again. Yeah, so you do kind of. I think because you're brought up in that world,
Uh-huh.
you just get on with your job.
Right.
But you kind of, I mean, you're sitting at tables and they're talking. Richard Harris is sitting there talking about buying an island, and
Yeah.
and someone else is talking about how they flew their private jet, and you kind of go, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
But I'm sort of, well, I was 17, 16, 17, 16, I think 16 when I did that. But it was great. I mean, I was 4 months in Hungary. It was great, really,
Yeah.
really good. And I actually, when I finished, I flew out to America and lived. Well, Raoul obviously died, but I lived with Julie McGuinness for a while.
Right. Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. So, like, we'll move on then to on to Grange Hill, and as you've mentioned, you were in it twice, but two different characters. So obviously, the first, I'm guessing it was just normal audition for the first,
Yeah.
and you knew it was just going to be a couple of episodes, did you? At that point?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of had this love affair with Grange Hill way back because, as I say, my girlfriend was in it, and I knew a lot of people in it, and a lot of people in my class were in it, and I was very, very good friends with Joanne Kenny. We spent a lot of time together. She's just the most beautiful woman. And obviously, sad things
Yeah.
happen there, and yeah, so I kind of always had this love affair with Grange Hill where. Everyone was sort of saying, when would you go in it as a regular? And it's like, I was never really asked. It was just, they asked me to do a cameo. Silver at the time never really wanted me to go in as a full time.
Right.
So this one came up and she was like, look, you're there anyway. You may as well go and get some money for it.
So you were there as like a pupil at St. Joseph's, and
yeah.
there was all that thing because Aunt Jones had joined St. Joseph's from Grange Hill, and there was always that bit, which side are you on, Jonesy type thing. And
Yeah.
it all kicked off, and then the St. Joseph lads turned up. But Mr. Bronson was there, and Mr. Glover, who was the chair of governors. But they met the St. Joseph lads, but thought they were there helping the Grange Hill kids out who were doing this sit-in for a demonstration about the radio, and they were having like a sit-in protest. And before that bit, there was a scrap. Basically, there was a fight, and you're there turning up fighting with the likes of Ziggy and Gonch and all them lads. Like, did you know any of them previously?
I kind of so. Yeah, at the time there was a little bit of hostility between me and them offset before I even got the role. So it kind of didn't. Yeah, there was. I'm not naming who it was, but there was a little bit of hostility, and it carried throughout my whole Grange Hill career.
Right,
but,
okay.
Yeah, so there was a bit of hostility there anyway. So there was me and this other person that really wanted to get our hands on each other anyway. But,
right, okay. I won't. You can tell me after.
Oh, it carries on.
But yeah, so but like I say, there's a scene there with Mr. Bronson, Michael Sheard. Now, everyone says he was just so different to what you saw with Mr. Bronson. He was just so funny and all that. I mean, obviously, you were only in like the one scene with him, but was he like that with you? Like,
to be honest, I didn't really get. I mean, obviously, I worked with him and we were on set and stuff, but I didn't get to know him as well as everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know who he was. He was he was his legend. I mean, that's he is what he is. And but everyone around seemed to he wasn't like he was.
Yeah.
And of course, it was only a few years earlier. I was watching it, so I had that fear of him because I kind of would watched him on the TV. So.
Yeah. But like, so you've said there, Sylvia didn't really want you to go in it full time. So how did you end up in it full time?
So
I think I've heard this story, but I want you to tell us.
You want to get the story straight.
Yeah.
So what happened is the film we were just talking about, I just finished, and I'd gone to America and they do a thing out there called pilot season, and you go in various different, you audition for different shows, and I'd been doing pilot season, and a couple of things I was doing might have been picked up, and then I was coming home for Christmas, just before Christmas, and so I'd rung Sylvia and said I was coming home, and so she said, "Look, when are you coming back?" And I said, "Well, there's no real plan. I can come back whenever." And so she said, "Look, Grange Hill have got this part." And I was older then, I was 17 at this point. And she just said, "Oh, one of the main characters has left." And I didn't know who that was. And she said, "It's left a huge hole in the cast." And as you know, you've done enough of these, and all the people listening know that, you'd start off as a young kid and you'd make your way up, and then you'd become the it boy, the it girl, and you'd earned your stripes. And obviously, I found out later it was Sean Maguire and Teggs had left.
Yeah.
And so there was this huge hole in the show. So Sylvia said, "Look, they just want to see." I kind of knew the producers anyway, and I kind of so she said, "Look, they've mentioned you by name. They would just like you to go and see them." So I said, "Okay, well, I'll go in." So I went in, and I knew Albert, and I don't think I had any chance of getting the role. I really didn't at the time. But Albert was just like, "Look, we've got this character, and really we just want you for 4 episodes.
Right.
That's it. We don't want you for any more, and we want you to come in and just be crazy, just call absolute mayhem for 4 episodes. That's it." Yeah. So and I was like, "Sounds great. Sounds exactly up my street." And then it meant I was then finished for Christmas. It meant I got to see my parents. It meant I had a play to do in January, February. And then I had a small film to do called Asylum. And then I was going back to America. That was my plan. And so I went in and I just caused absolute mayhem. I went into the dressing room and was, wardrobe, and was like, "That pair of tracksuit bottoms would be great. That pair of silly red shoes will be great. I'll rip this shirt. I'll stick this tie on. Excellent. That'll do me." And it was great. And I just went for it. And that was it. I thought that was me done. I'd done the 4 eps. We went to Exmoor. We done that. We came back. And that was it. I thought that was me done. And that was the end of it. And then end of February, I think it was, I got a phone call to just go and do some press junkets, just to announce, that I was going to be in it. And the next thing I know, I was offered a full-time contract.
Brilliant. Now, whenever I'm putting an episode of the podcast out, I always do picture clues. I put picture clues online for people to try and guess who the guest's going to be. And if someone gets it right, they get a chance to ask the next guest a question.
Okay.
Right? So I've got a question for you here, and it's from someone called Mark Rutter. Mark's a big Grange Hill fan. He's an admin on one of the Grange Hill groups on Facebook. And his question is, which of the following gave you the biggest thrill? So getting the part of Ray, getting enrolled at Sylvia Young's, or when QPR beat West Brom to get into the 1982 FA Cup final?
So my family are massive QPR fans, and I'll tell you. So my family are huge QPR fans. My uncle was the chairman's driver.
Right, wow.
And because I went into acting, I never really got into sport at all.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't follow football.
Right.
And my first ever anything to do with football, I played at the Stamford Bridge for a celebrity game. And I ended up talking to a guy called Gianluca Vialli,
right.
And he made me promise him that I would support Chelsea from that moment
on. Okay.
So my dad will kill me because I'm not really that bothered about QPR. But I should say QPR. But say Sylvia's.
Right. Okay.
Because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I honestly didn't. I didn't know what it was. I came from nothing. I came from nowhere. And so to be thrown into London and the line, just the whole world was just, it was crazy. It was crazy times. I still see, I've got a lot of friends that we always say, if you went to Sylvia's, it doesn't matter whether you speak to them now or back then, they're all family. We're all family because we're all putting it together. So I would say, and I know I'm going to get Grange Hill people are going to kill me, but I'm going to say going to Sylvia's.
Right. Okay. Okay. Brilliant answer. Brilliant. Okay. So you mentioned then you got the part of Ray. Ray came in, and like you said there was no big introduction. It was like Ray had always been there. He was known to the kids. Ray and his mate Henry was his mate called.
Yeah, Munwai Wong.
Yeah, and like the pair of them, like you said there, Ray had come in to not replace Tegs because you can't replace Tegs, but to be that kind of character. And he was a bit of a scally. He wasn't afraid to nick stuff if it meant, him getting the upper hand and stuff like that. But the first time we see him is when they're talking about the fact that the trip to Russia had been called off. And Ray was devastated because he wanted to drive a Russian tank. And as you said there, they ended up going on the trip on the moors. And on the morning of the trip, Ray was late and they were about to go when all of a sudden he comes hurtling across the playground on a bike and he crashed into the van. And then he told Mr. Robson that it was his brother's bike and he'd nicked it and his brother was chasing him and that's why it's there. And then
so there's a very funny story about that. So that was, so I hadn't met anyone. I hadn't met any of the cast, right? And so that was my first scene that I ever filmed.
Right, wow.
And so they'd obviously been told this guy, Kelly. So some of the people, like the Buckfields and people like that, they knew me. And they said, oh, this guy's going to come in and do this thing. And so they were like, look, we really want them to get into the kind of the vibe of Ray's just nuts. So they said, just come around the corner. Now, I used to race BMX.
Right.
And so I'm not now, my knees won't hurt, but I was good on a bike. So I came flying around the corner, skidded, hit the side of the van, slid the bike under the van, and of course everyone went, oh! What happened was they thought that the crew thought I'd hurt myself. Right. And they grabbed the bike and pulled it out and broke my finger.
Oh no.
So my first day on set, my first ever scene, I broke my finger. So welcome to the world of Ray.
Brilliant. Now, you mentioned the world of Ray, and a big part of the world of Ray was Kenny, the late great Denzel Kilvington. I mean,
a great man.
Yeah, I mean, what was he like?
Oh. So it was really difficult because we were thrown into it. We kind of, and everyone knew each other. Everyone had grown up together. Everyone had been doing scenes together, and we kind of didn't. I knew Des from school, but I'd never worked with any of those guys. And so it was like, I kind of come in, and as you say, there was a lot of people saying, oh, he's just trying to take over from Sean. And I'm like, look, I haven't seen this. I don't even know. I've certainly not come in to take over from anyone. I'm just doing what I've been asked to do. But there was quite a lot of hostility there because of that, because, there was people that had come the way through and felt that they should have earned the stripes to have been the main guy. And I never thought that Ray should be the main guy. He's the guy that's the friend of the main guy.
Yeah.
But it just over the years, it just kind of happened that, I don't know why, people just took to him. He was, but he was, he was based on a friend of mine that was like that. You'd go out at night and you'd see him out. He'd be everywhere, but you would never invite him back for dinner. Never, right? So he was your friend, and you'd play and you'd go to the park and you'd have the best time, but you'd never invite him home.
Yeah.
And that's who I always said Ray was, And but working with Denzel was just phenomenal, just absolutely great. I mean, we had some of our best times. And I actually got to meet Denzel after, we used to go out together away from filming, and I got on, and it was not great what happened, but it was, it shocked us all.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing I love about Kenny, when you first see Kenny, the camera is like floor level, and he comes in crashes through them doors, so he looks huge, like just this big imposing character, and he's just. It's like a Godzilla or something, the way he's like smashing the doors open and he's smashing the lockers and everything. You just think, oh my God, who's this? Like, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
What a character.
But like, I'm a London boy and he's from the north.
Yeah. And that never gets mentioned. It's never mentioned, the fact that these both speak completely different. But you get, you can see straight away there that, we've always had this thing about, Ray's a bit of a scally, but then when you see Kenny as well. You think, yeah, they're not the cleanest of families, shall we say? Like, brilliant. And then the other thing about that scene with the bike, obviously Ray falls over, his bag empties, and there's an axe in in his bag as well. And when Mrs. Munro, another legend, Anna Quayle, says to him, "Why have you brought this for?" He's for rock climbing. You always see them in the films with an axe, don't you, when they go rock climbing? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've nicked that off my brother as well. Yeah,
and his wallet and his leather jacket. Yeah. We better move.
There was a big storyline in there, was Chrissy being pregnant while they were away, and it all came out while they were away. And there's a bit where Chrissy wants to go back to centre. That's when she's first told Justine. And they told Justine and Chrissy, well, if you get a couple of the lads to go with you, that's okay. So you get Richard and Ray to go with them, and they're walking through.
Chrissy, I mean, seriously, why them two?
Why would you pick
them two?
You've got Matthew there, you've got Nick there, all these sensible lads. But no, let's get them two idiots. And Chrissy falls and does her ankle in. So Ray disappears. And the next thing, he comes back with the van that he'd nicked and tried to nick earlier on. Now, I've also heard you saying about getting the part. I've heard that they needed someone that could drive as well.
No,
and obviously,
I was 17.
I was going to say, because it always gets mentioned, the fact that you're supposed to be 14, and everyone always says, although Ray's quite small, you just look so much older than everyone else at the time. Like, and so that was the thing as well. I heard that you needed to be able to drive.
Yeah, that was the main thing. That was because I'd literally just passed my test.
Right.
And so it was like, and as I say, it was just for those. So that because I was for those 4 EPs, it was like, well, we need you to drive the car. And the funniest thing was, I never ever got to drive it.
All right.
It was always on the back of a trailer. So to be honest, they could have got anyone.
Yeah. Brilliant. The thing I like about that, when he comes back with the car, with the van, they say to him, how did you remember where it was? He went, "Oh, I've always been good at that. I've always been good at remembering my directions. I used to be in the Scouts." And then he said, until they kicked me out, the only Scout ever to be court-martialed. And the reason I like that is because I've always been in Scouts. I'm a Scout leader now. Like, so and I'm going to tell you, he's not the only ones who have ever been court-martialed. I can tell you that now. And then they get the girls back to centre, and they get the van back to the farm. And Richard takes a $5 out of Kenny's wallet and puts it under the under the windscreen wiper. Richard, the sensible one of the two, like, we'll put that there. And Ray said Richard had style, even if he was an idiot, because he was a bit free with other people's money, to be honest. Like. And obviously Matthew was there, and Matthew was very different to the rest of the lads. He was, a lot more, let's we say, immature in certain ways. And he was smaller, and he looked younger. And Richard and Ray and the lads thought it'd be a good idea to try and toughen him up a little bit. So can you remember what they did to try and toughen him up?
Didn't I jump in a swimming pool? Was I like in a bog or something and jumped out as the bog monster or some rubbish like that?
So there'd been a storyline with Matthew where Richard had been telling them that there was smugglers living next door to him, and
because I knew nothing of this.
Yeah,
this was all new.
These smugglers were supposed to have seen Matthew and the lads one day, and there was a light shining in the distance. And Richard was saying to Matthew, "Oh, it's the smugglers, blah blah." And Matthew was starting to get frightened, but Richard said, "Go and keep watch down that path." When as Matthew walked down the path, the Mad Axeman jumped out. Now, the Mad Axeman was a ghost story that Nick had told the lads, but it also said it wasn't true. And it still worried Matthew. But the Mad Axeman jumped out of like a water tank or a septic tank or something. And it was Ray. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Were you actually in that tank? And were you all like makeup on you and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what they did was I had a wetsuit on.
Right.
Obviously, because I knew Paul and I know Des, they thought it'd be funny. So Paul kept running his lines, and I'm in this tank, and I must have been in that tank for flipping ages. and then they'd go, right, okay, and then they'd start their scene, and so they'd say, right, Kelly, go down under the water. So I'd go under the water, and then someone was by the side of the tank, and they were going to tap the tank to tell me when they were coming to jump up. So I laid there. They never came. So I went back up. Paul had forgot his lines. Yeah, of course he had. And it went on for hours. It felt like hours. And in the end, what they did was they said, right, this is stupid. Kelly, get out of the thing. We'll film them and then we'll turn and all you got to do is jump out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a lot, we did a lot. There was a lot. There's so much stuff in it that we used to do just to like do. There was stuff we used to do while we were on there for a laugh.
Yeah.
Like people walking down corridors and then turning around and walking back again just because we wanted to.
Yeah. Brilliant. So while Ray and the lads thought it was funny, not many of the others thought it did, and it became like a bit of tension, a bit of thing there. And the next day was the final task. Now we saw Ray was in a group with Richard, Fran, and Maria, and we saw them with horses. Did you actually get to ride them?
Yeah, so I did a film when I was actually Husa Misa.
All right.
So when I did Husa Misa, I had to learn to ride a horse, and I loved it. So I'm not very big, as you probably can gather. So I actually was training to be a jockey in my spare time up in Wales. So I did get to ride the horses, yeah.
Because I believe you got to do a lot of the activities while you were there. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did the horses. Someone done. I think they were doing canoeing. Some of them done rock climbing. So we all got to do bits and pieces while we were there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, because while this final task was going on, Jamie, who worked at the centre, told Ray that they'd had a phone call from Kenny, who was coming to see him. And Ray's panicking then, while they're all doing the task. And they're all saying, you've got to stop panicking, get on with it. And then Ray also told Richard that Kenny wouldn't like the fact that he'd given his money away. And the next thing, they were getting rocks thrown at them, and they just assumed it was Kenny was on the rampage. So they hid under a shelter. And Maria said she thought she'd seen someone with a gun. And Ray and Richard ran off into like a big crevice, puddle, stream, whatever you want to call it. And it turned out that it wasn't Kenny, and it was just all the others getting them back for what they'd done to Matthew. But I'm assuming when you fell into that ravine, river, whatever it was just done in the one take. I mean, not like the water tank.
No, because it was because I remember that it was the puddle was a man-made puddle, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And they wanted us to slide in, and so when it went in and never got we done it 5 or 6 times.
Right, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Now, after the trip, when they're back at school, they're all sitting in assembly, and Ray's got a black eye, and one of the lads asked him if Kenny had caught up with him and give him the black eye. And Ray said no, because his dad wouldn't let Kenny touch him. So then he said, so who give you the black eye? And Ray says, me dad. And they all laugh about it. And when you think, God, could you imagine that now? God, that would be that's a storyline in itself.
Yeah.
But even Ray's laughing about it. Yeah, he wouldn't let him touch it. Who give you it? Me dad. And they all just laughed their heads off about it.
But we never got to see my dad.
No, and that that was it. That's the thing there, because we, a couple of series later, we do see them in the flat and all that, but the dad's obviously not there.
Even at the wedding, there was no dad.
No, there wasn't. No. And there's a bit still in the 4th year where Ray nicked Richard's bike, riding it around the playground, another bike, and crashes that one. And Richard's like, well, you've got no respect for other people's property. And that was proven. Because you remember the bit with Nick's jacket? He wanted to
what? So Nick's jacket has caused me more issues in my life than anyone else. Because obviously the Nick jacket thing where I dyed it, and then I said I'd sort it. I think the line I'll sort it. And that was the end. You never saw the jacket. It was never mentioned again. And the amount of people
really
moment have asked me about bloody Nick's jacket. And I'm like, I don't know what happened to Nick's jacket.
Never gave me that script.
Yeah.
But again, he borrowed the jacket for the night out. He went out. They went into a club. Obviously, as I say earlier, because obviously you did look older than 14. You know, you were at that age where you were presumably already going out to clubs anyway. Like, because I remember thinking fourth year, 15 and 14 and 15, and they're out in clubs. But the what was it? The rum and black got spilt on it. And they're like, what are we going to do? And they missed the last bus home. So, because we knew Ray was he was a bit like fingered, shall we say. He tried to break into a car, and Kenny turns up in his car, throws Ray in it, and the others laughed their heads off and then realised they're not getting home.
Yeah.
And like you say, he dyed the jacket, and then he said, I'll sort it. And I've written down in my notes exactly what you just said. That jacket never seemed to materialise.
Nothing was, and honestly, the amount of people, I got fan mail after fan mail asking me about the jacket, and I'm like, I don't know. They never told me what was going to happen.
Brilliant. Now, the 50th year, the next series 15, like I say, we're in 50th year, and I think this was like probably, you know, you'd been a sort of a supporting character, and you know, you'd done a few things in the series before, but this is where you get your first biggest storyline, and it was when a new teacher came in. Ray's there talking about being he'd be a self-made millionaire by the time he's 18, and then he starts doing this scene where he's like in the stock exchange on a mobile phone, you know,
buy, sell,
buy all that, and then there's an American accent. We hear an American accent coming in and telling them to sit down, and it was the new teacher, Miss Janowitz, and Ray was absolutely besotted with her, like, but she was keen to like bring him into line, and you know,
nah, she fancied me. I'm not having any of it.
Brilliant. Ray even tried to buy the same trainers as her.
Yeah. The thing is, people buy them looking trainers now.
Yeah. All mad colours, all big.
Yeah.
They were like the big boots type, weren't they, as well?
Yeah.
Like
the basketball sort of thing.
Yeah. He tried to buy a pair, but they were 80 quid. So, because they were 80 quid, he said to Richard, well, I'll nick them. And Richard said, well, yeah, but they only have the right foot on display. He said, you're not going to do much with it if you're hopping around everywhere. And then he said to her, he hadn't felt this way about anyone since Bernadette Devine in the first year. He said he used to watch Bernadette chewing her chewing gum and sticking it under the table. He said, and then he'd go over and he'd take the chewing gum himself and chew it himself.
So do you know who Bernadette Devine is?
No idea who Bernadette Devine is. No, it was just a name that's there. Like, but you know who she was.
Basically, there was a name. There was just some random name in the script. And Albert Barber come up to me, who was the producer, and said he wanted me to use the name Bernadette Devine because it was his childhood sweetheart.
Right. Wow. Brilliant.
So that Bernadette Devine was a person, and it was Albert Barber's first love.
I love that.
The producer's first love.
That's amazing. Oh, what a story. Brilliant.
I'll dish the dirt. I don't care.
Yeah. This was also the year of the big feud between, which you'd been part of one earlier on, between Grange Hill and St. Joe's, but now you were on the Grange Hill side. And some kids from St. Joseph's had been in the Peace Garden. Remember the Peace Garden? Yeah. And some of the kids had chased them off. And one of the kids had fell over and broke his arm, I think it was. So Justine's boyfriend, Liam, turned up. Liam, played by Danny Cunningham. Friend of the podcast, Danny. He's a good lad, Danny.
Listen, I knew Danny prior to Grange Hill.
Right.
Phenomenal actor. Absolutely phenomenal. And when he came in, I was so pleased. Because I'd known Danny before. So, great guy to come in.
Brilliant. He turned up with other kids, demanding compensation for what had happened to this kid. And Ray and his mates just laughed at him. And the St. Joseph lads walked away. But Richard had told Ray that he could see it all getting out of hand. And Ray just called him a chicken and walked off. And this eventually led to that massive confrontation on the waste ground. Have you got any stories of that? Everyone's got a story about that one. Like,
I've got lots. So there was massive arguments about the whole storyline.
Right.
Because I never felt really that Ray should be the front and centre for that. I was very adamant that Ray saw violence in his life, and at no time did you ever see Ray violent to anyone. He was the village idiot. He was the class clown, but he was never violent. And so I found it quite hard that all of a sudden Ray, from being the class clown, they wanted me to play the kind of tough nut from the school, and that's not that for me personally. I was looking at Ray and going, that's not Ray.
Yeah.
You know, give it to someone. There's plenty of other people that, you know, Des could have done it. I didn't really like the idea of Ray being the front and center for that, because I just thought it just doesn't suit his character. But you know, I'm being paid to do it, so you end up finding it well. So there's been loads. So there was when we so it was filmed in Wembley. So we very rarely went to Wembley, and they were doing up a site just behind the TV Centre, and so there was stuff where we're up in the top of this building. Yeah. So when we get there, as me and Des are the first two up there, so we go walking up. They say, "Oh, you know, you're up 3 stores up." You know, we set it all up yesterday. We go walking up, and of course, it's a public place. People can walk in there.
Yeah.
And there was how do I put it? A man's magazine shoot.
Brilliant.
And so we walk in, and there's these 3 or 4 lovely young ladies.
No way.
All being photographed. So they were like, they wrapped rather quickly. We were like, listen, guys, there's like 2,000 people about to turn up.
Wow.
So they went off, and that was quite funny. And then and then when we were filming it, obviously the guys on the Grange Hill side were all kind of extras from Grange Hill, but the guys from the St Joe's side were from local schools.
Yeah.
And they genuinely thought that there was going to be a scrap.
Yeah.
And so obviously I was the ringleader of it. So I was kind of the head guy that they were all gunning for. So I had to eat at TV Centre. They wouldn't let me eat on set, and because they were pretty serious. They were coming for me.
Yeah. Alan Cave told me he was genuinely terrified.
Yeah.
That day, like because he was one of the younger ones anyway. But he said he was genuinely terrified that day.
Yeah, yeah. They there's a scene where the final kind of scene where Chrissy and Justine come in, and it had got to that stage there that it was about to kick off, like
really
kick off. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So as I say, we had lunch, and they just said, "Kel, you can't."
Wow.
So they took me off.
Brilliant.
I'd have taken them all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I don't think they are.
Brilliant. So we'll come back onto Ray's crush on Miss Janowitz there. Ray had found out that Miss Janowitz liked the poems of Lord Byron, and he found out that another school was having a writers' week, and they wanted another school to join in. He assumed that Lord Byron was still alive, so he asked. It was Dennis Allen-Cave, who I've just mentioned there, was on the very early days of the internet, and he'd seen about Writers' Week, and he said, "Is Lord Byron going to be there?" And Dennis, in the end, knew, but went, "Yeah, Lord Byron will be there." So Dennis goes to Miss Janowitz and said, "Do you want to meet Lord Byron?" And she was like, "Yeah, he's been dead for 200 years." But Writers' Week was a good idea, and the school got involved. And I've mentioned this a few times because the 50s had a performance from Levi Tafari.
Yeah.
At that one. And Levi Tafari, like I've mentioned this as well. I work in a school, and he came and did stuff in our school.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Just what a guy. Like,
yeah.
What you see on Grange Hill is exactly the way he is. Like, in real life, he came in. He was dressed the same way. He's just this massive presence. And he's so good at it.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's like, you know, we were working, so it was kind of people come in, do their bit, go. You know, we get loads of cameos, people coming in, doing their bit and go. It was almost like a Messiah came in for a bit because it was like we sat there doing kind of the, you know, and he never did the same sonnet twice.
Right. Wow.
So he just said, I'm just going to kind of go with it. And they were like, yeah. And it was just like, we were all sitting there going, this is phenomenal. He was great. Yeah. Levi Tafari was great.
And the thing about that is that Ray doesn't look too interested by it. Not because he's not enjoying the poem, but he's got Miss Janowitz on his mind. Like,
you wouldn't leave me alone, mate. Wouldn't leave me alone.
by this time, she's really on his mind, and he's saying like, to the lads, I should be doing something about it, and the lads are like, look, you're being stupid, but she's really on his mind. And at the end of the week, Miss Janowitz is taking the banner down, and Ray's holding the ladder for her.
Oh, the ladder scene.
And
The
then
ladder scene.
when she falls down the ladder, or when she comes down, Ray grabs her and kissed her. Was that difficult to do? I know, because I know you were a bit older and you've been acting on it, but was it difficult at that time thinking?
You trying to say I've been around a bit?
Look, it's only what I've read on the internet.
Well, it's most of it's true. So, to be honest, so it was like the last scene one of the last scenes we ever really did together. Because again, she sort of disappeared. Yeah. She was great. She was really, really good, and I'd done a lot of scenes with her. And it was one of her first acting roles. She'd never really done much, so I'd been doing quite a lot of scenes, and she was getting quite. She was worried about the scene and everything. So, and I kept winding her up, saying, "Oh, I hope they do it after lunch because I'm going to have pickles. I'm going to have anything." And so, just to try and calm, I'd done a couple of scenes in other films and stuff. I'd done some nudity and things and various different things. So I was kind of used to that. But for her, it was her first time. So we had to do quite a few. She kept stumbling on her words, and I think it was because she wanted me to keep kissing her. That's what I think it was.
That is the only
she always got it
explanation I
wrong
can
just
think
after. No, but it was, with anything I do with, when I'm acting, I always feel that acting is about making the people around you comfortable. And when we do, whatever you're doing, whether it be a fight scene, whether it be a love scene, whatever it is, as long as you kind of make everyone feel, you make everyone feel comfortable. And I kind of took it upon myself a little bit with some of the younger ones that came in that were struggling. It was a hard schedule, that I would always kind of try and make it more fun and make, because it's serious, you're told very regularly, that when they shout action, it's £10,000 a second. And that's what it's costing. So, for the young ones, it is quite a lot of pressure, but at the same for I can't remember her name now.
Marita, was it?
Oh, Marita
Black.
Yeah. And she, so I tried to make it kind of as, I'm quite a fun-loving kind of go with the flow kind of person. So I just tried to make it, if it goes wrong, don't worry about it. It'll all be fine. We'll get there, and it'll be. So yeah, for me it was fine, but I know she struggled a little bit to begin with.
Yeah, because
I think it's because she did fancy me really. I'm sure.
I mean, the thing with that kiss was Natasha saw it happen. Now Natasha was the evil twin. And
what wonderful girls they are. The most beautiful girls.
Both friends of the podcast, both been on here, brilliant. But the thing with it, as you say, Natasha was the evil one. So the next day, Ray's panicking about it. Miss Janowitz is panicking about it. And then Natasha announces to everyone what's happened. And Ray's getting grief from his mates. And in the end, Ray speaks to Miss Janowitz and Miss Munro about it. And Miss Janowitz said there was no way she could think of him as anything other than a schoolboy. Now, I've mentioned Mrs. Munro a couple of times, Anna Quayle. Like, did you realise how big a name she was when you were with her? Like,
yeah. So I actually spent time with Anna outside of filming. Right. She lived in Brighton, and I used to pop down and see her a lot, and we became very, very good friends. And because I was driving, obviously, I used to drive into work, and when she was filming, she used to stay in the hotel, the Swan in St Albans, and so I used to drive her back to the hotel, and I'd stay and have dinner with her and stuff. And I just wanted to learn, from a master. I wanted to talk to someone that had just done it, been there at the highest of levels, and just listen to the stories. I'm a big chatty guy, but sometimes I do listen, and it was just lovely to go there and just listen to the stories, and and how she got what she did and did what she just a lovely, lovely, lovely lady, lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I've said a few times, you can always tell how good Grange Hill was by the calibre of actors they got to play the teachers.
Yeah.
We've mentioned Michael Sheard, we've mentioned Anna Quayle, Stuart Organ and Gwyneth Powell and all these people, like unbelievable actors. Like, Now, we've mentioned the fighting. Liam, Danny Cunningham, Justine's boyfriend, was in a gang. We found out that he was in a gang, a street gang, not just a group of mates. The Hawks, they were. And Ray's brother had told Ray that something was going to kick off between the Hawks and the Eagles was the other one, the other gang. And he said,
The
when it
writers
does,
lost a lot of sleep over that, didn't
yeah.
they?
I mean, I'm guessing they were trying to keep away from the Sharks and the Jets, so they went with
Yeah.
the Eagles and the Hawks. And Kenny said to Ray, "Look, when it kicks off, you need to make sure you're not involved. You know, you're at home and all that." But then they find out that something's going to happen, and Ray's getting worried for Justine, and he says, "You know, we need to go and tell Liam that something's going to happen, and we need to get him to avoid it." And because Kenny said to Ray, "Look, it's happening tonight." So in the end, Ray gets a lift from Kenny. They pick up some of the others and they go round to try and find Liam, and they're stuck in a traffic jam. And Ray gets out to go and see what it is. And when he comes back in, he doesn't say a word. He doesn't say a word to anyone. They're like, "Ray, what is it? What is it?" And we find out that Liam has been knocked off his bike and killed. And Danny Cunningham actually sent me photographs of that. And it's the weirdest thing because it's just a BBC van that he's under. You know, when you just think it's going to be a lorry or something, you know, but it's just a BBC van that he's there in front of. And that's it. Liam had been knocked off his bike and killed. And, you know, we see then not just Justine, but all the kids dealing with that. And, you know, trying to, because obviously Justine was like, you know, you've mentioned Ray being like front and center, but obviously Justine was the
Yeah.
face of Grange Hill
Oh, yeah.
at the
I always
time.
said that
Like,
there was different eras, and I was I'd been sort of through most of those eras,
yeah,
and I think Rachel at the time really was the last of that era
uh-huh.
before the new era started,
Yeah,
and yeah, she was by far the face. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
And so they're there, they're all dealing with it, and it's Ray who she eventually speaks to. She doesn't speak to anyone the day she comes back into school, and it's Ray that, you know, for all his faults, it's good. I just think it was good that it's Ray's the one that Justine turns to be able to give her some consolation and some comfort in it. And that series ended with a baseball match where between the pupils and the teachers. And at the end of that, Ray tells Miss Janowitz, even though she's leaving, that she could always go back next year because they'd still be there. Now, the only reason I mention that is because when Richard Drew, the art director for Series 15, was on, he told me that when the baseball match was being filmed, two people messed about with a crane or a cherry picker or, you know, a raisin lift thing that was getting used to film a top shot. And he wouldn't tell me who it was. He said they messed about with it and it got stuck. And they were trying. You've mentioned there £10,000 a second or whatever. He said it was about 45 minutes before they could get this thing going. So I'm going to ask you: was it you that was messing about in that?
I plead the fifth.
I'm taking that as a yes.
I say no more.
Brilliant, brilliant.
I don't know why everyone thought it would be me.
Do you know what? Right. So Richard said to me, "I've mentioned this person in this podcast." He actually says that, and there was you. He mentioned a few people, but I just thought I'd ask you if it was you. But you're not going to tell me. But I think we can all draw our own conclusions from that one. So we move on to Series 16, which is Ray was in sixth form. Now, before we talk about anything that happened in sixth form, obviously it was 1993, and fashions were a bit different then. You were in sixth form, so wearing your own clothes. Did you have any say into what Ray would wear?
Not no, not really, not at that stage.
Right.
There was lots of things happening on that year within Grange Hill. What was going to happen with the cast, and so no, there was a lot of, and it was crazy. They were crazy times. I mean, I tried to explain to my girls. You know, I still get asked for autographs now,
Yeah.
and people want photographs, and they're just like, what? And I'm trying to explain to them just how big it was.
Yeah.
And they just can't understand. And it's like, you know, I was sponsored by jean companies. I was sponsored
Really?
by coat
Wow.
companies. I got offered a car. I mean, it was mad. I mean, it was
Yeah.
madness. We got it at that time. I think we were about back up to 11, 12 million viewers again,
Yeah.
which is unheard of. I mean, now, EastEnders is what, 6 million, something
Yeah.
ridiculous. So I'm trying to explain to her just how big it was. So they were very much aware that, Kelly, you're not going to wear what you want to wear
Right.
just because you're being sponsored by these.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of my Averex jackets in,
Right.
but yeah,
And the
no, I didn't have a lot.
the bright red trousers, were they your idea?
See, everything like that. I literally, whenever I went into wardrobe, because I tried to, it was really hard to kind of, because I went in it for those 4 episodes and I went so full on,
Yeah.
that it was like to try and maintain that. So
Yeah.
it's like whenever I went into wardrobe, anything I saw that was just, I just thought, was it a hand me down? Would I have got it from a charity shop? And that's really the way I just used to go into wardrobe. And wardrobe used to love it because it was
Yeah.
just like, give me the worst thing you've got in this room.
Yeah.
The one thing no one else is going to wear, just give me it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And the thing with that, we mentioned the fact that Ray was living with Kenny in the flat and that. And that series 16 actually starts with Ray, and that's how it opens in the flat. And Ray's burning his breakfast, and the lads, Richard and Nick, come for him. But they saw some women's clothing in there, and they assumed Ray had a girlfriend. And when they asked him, he didn't deny it. Because they were like, no, we can't have. We wouldn't have heard the end of it if he did. And then Ray actually gets dropped off at school by Ruth. Her name
Ruth,
was.
yeah,
And
on the motorbike.
yeah, on the motorbike. And like he doesn't deny it when they ask him. So the story it gets bigger and bigger, and we find out that Ruth is obviously Kenny's girlfriend, and they're spending more and more time together. And what, like, I didn't realize this as a kid. It's only when I've watched it back, Ray actually gets quite lonely with that, and he's trying to and I just thought that from a writing point of view, that's so good the way they've done that. Like, his brother's obviously older than him, but his brother's spending more time with his girlfriend. As you mentioned, the dad's not there, the mum's not there, and he's on his own in the flat, and he's trying to, he's asking people to go to his house for tea and stuff, and he keeps up this charade of being Ruth's boyfriend when eventually it gets to him. All the lying gets to him, all the fact that he's on his own, and he tells Maria, Louisa Bradshaw. No, I've said this before. By that time, that year group, that cohort that you were working with, it's arguably the strongest Grange Hill lads, because there was yourself,
Wow.
Desmond Askew, Rachel's there, Rebecca Gilgan, Lucy Bradshaw White, Gareth Phillips, just for the Buckfields as well. For that, it's arguably, I think, one of the strongest that Grange Hill had.
Wow.
Easily. And Ray eventually speaks to Maria and tells him that, Ruth is his brother's girlfriend. And Maria promised she wouldn't tell anyone. But obviously she went and told their mates straight away. So they do have a good laugh at him. And Kenny then tells Ray that him and Ruth are going to be getting married. And Ray wasn't happy about it. And we don't realise why at first, why he wasn't happy about it. And Kenny says to Ray, I'm going to want you to be my best man. And you can see Kenny sort of like saying to Ray, like, you can have me car, all these things. But Ray just doesn't want to know until he heard that there was money to be made by recording weddings on camcorders. And he thought he could use the school camcorder to make a bit of money by recording the wedding. The engagement party at first. We videoed the engagement party, but the only problem was the school didn't have a camcorder. They had a fund for it, but they only had about 50 quid. And so Ray makes a bet with some kids from St. Joseph's that Grange Hill would beat them in a football match. He bet the 50 quid on it, and Grange Hill did win, but the St. Joseph's lads refused to pay up. So Ray eventually got the money by getting a TV company to come into the school to film an advert for trainers when it had been kiboshed by Mrs. Monroe before then. Like, but he got Justine to ring up and say that he could film it there. And Ray eventually told Justine that he wasn't happy about Kenny getting married because Kenny would want to go and live with Ruth and he wouldn't have anywhere to live. And like I say, it's such a good angle on the story about this kid. All right, he's a class clown, as you've said, but he's thinking, what am I going to do? Because he wasn't the type that was going to go on to university, I don't think. So he wouldn't have had, he was thinking, if my brother goes and lives there, where am I going to live? And Justine's like, well, won't the council let you stay here? He's like, there's no chance, because,
yeah.
And so when Ray asked Kenny if he'd want him around when he was married, Kenny just said, I haven't got time to talk about this. And I don't think it ever went. I can't remember if it goes anywhere with that. But Ray and Nick managed to get hold of this camcorder. And they took it to the engagement party and inadvertently recorded Kenny's ex turning up and kissing Kenny. Like, she's properly all over him. And Ray said, look, we've got to get rid of that tape because there's no way Kenny's ever going to let me live with him if he sees the tape. We'll come back to that one because Ray also became coach of the girls' football team.
Yeah.
If you remember that, even though...
Head of my time.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that a few times. The fact it's so ahead of its time, the fact that they had a girls' football team, 1993. All right, I'm sure some schools did, but it wasn't like a huge thing. But the girls' team got a football match against the lads, and Ray was just like, they're not ready. We're going to get thrashed. But when the game took place, the girls only lost by 1 goal in the last second, the last kick of the game. And I was going to ask if football was your thing, but you've already told me that it wasn't. Like, so Ray also wants to watch a football match that had been recorded on the camcorder. For whatever reason, someone had recorded a lads' football match on the camcorder, and he got the wrong tape, and he didn't know when he was watching it at home. Kenny and Ruth were in there, and it was the tape of the engagement party, and Ruth saw it and left, breaking off the engagement. But that night, Ruth returned, and Ray told her how Kenny had been feeling. Kenny came back, and Ray said, Ray was the voice of reason here. Ray was like, look, you two obviously love each other. You need to get married. Even though we had all this other stuff going on, where am I going to live? Is Kenny going to want me around? He was the voice of reason in that one. The engagement was back on. But Ray went into sixth form and said, look, my brother's getting married. I want you all to come. But everyone in sixth form had fallen out with each other at this point. I don't know if you remember, there'd been all sorts of slagging off. The diary,
yeah,
Natasha's diary had been nicked and photocopied put up on the wall and all that. And it was Nick that had done it. And Ray said, look, you can all come as long as you promise to behave. And I want Nick to come as well. And Ray also got some of the younger kids in the school to be bridesmaids and page boys. Now, I love episodes like that where the whole cast are all involved in it. But obviously the day of it, it's a Haynes wedding. It was never going to go ahead as planned, was it? Like, the day of the wedding was obviously full of disasters. Ruth's wedding ring fell down the drain, and it was Ray had to get it out. If you remember that, like lying down in the road.
And then I wrecked the suit.
Yeah. And then Kenny's ex turned up at the church, and the girls had to stop her from saying anything. And Ray was driving the car, but driving it really slowly because he didn't want anything else bad to happen. And eventually they got there, and a good day was had by all. Now, that was the end of the series, and some of the sixth formers returned the following series, but Ray didn't. Now, was there any reason for that one? All right, okay.
So, you've probably been told by everybody what happened whenever we do a year, halfway through filming that season, you would get called in to the office.
Yeah. And
you would be asked, they would either, yes, they want you back, or no, they don't want you back. And if you do want you back, would you like to come back? Mm-hmm. So I get halfway through the summer. I haven't heard anything. And then I'm called off of set at the end to go back to the office. So I go to the office, and Denzel is there.
Right.
And we were called into the office together, which was really unusual, because the head of the BBC wanted to do a spin-off show with me and Denzel.
Wow.
And if we agreed, we wouldn't be able to come back for the final series for our final year. So we went into pre-production. We both said, yeah, we'd like to do it. We had lots of meetings at TV Centre. The scripts were being done. So when we did, no one else knew, but when we did the wedding scene,
Yeah.
we already knew we were done.
Right.
And everyone was asking us, "Oh, are you back next year?" And we weren't allowed to say anything. We were told quite categorically that no one was allowed to know that we got this spin-off series.
Wow.
And so they started filming again February, March. We were supposed to start in April, and we don't know to this day why it never happened. We were already in pre-production. We'd already done rehearsals. The scripts were half done. God knows how many times we'd been to TV Centre. And then just out the blue, we get a phone call to be told that they've had a change in policy and we're not going to do it.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Blimey.
And so it hit us, me and Den's, quite hard because obviously I've got a house now and I've got no work. Denzel had planned his year. He then went to Wales and hit him a lot harder than it hit me.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why we weren't back for the final year.
Wow, blimey. But you did eventually return.
I know, 2.0.
So, Series 20, how did that come about?
So I've heard many stories. Because by that time I'd sort of done my thing and I thought that was it. And I was filming here, there and everywhere. I was going to America. I was doing stuff. I was producing stuff and just kind of in the industry like I was before. And then just out the blue, Sylvia rang me. I wasn't with Sylvia at the time, but she did ring me and say, look, they're thinking of bringing back Ray. Would you be interested? And I was like, how? And they're saying, well, there's this cafe, and what they want to do is they want to bring Grange Hill a little bit more out of school now, and they've got a nightclub, or they were thinking of having a nightclub and this cafe. Would I be interested? So I said, well, let's, I've got to pay my bills. Let's go and see. So I went in to see it, and it did seem like quite a nice idea to kind of bring back the character. Now, one of the women in the press office said that they did a poll and said who, over the last 5 years, who would they like, or 6 years, 7 years, whatever, who they would like to come back. And apparently I won it. I've never seen a poll. I've never seen. So whether that was just to make me feel better, I don't know. But don't say yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so that was it. And so I came back. And again, it was one of them that I didn't think I was going to be in it that much. I thought that it was just going to be maybe one episode every, a couple of lines every couple of episodes or whatever. It became quite a stalwart for this, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot. It was all like, it was like a meeting place.
Yeah.
And a lot happened in the cafe. Like the karaoke nights, there was Joanna's alcoholism. That's where that all came about. And Mr. Robson's alcoholism as well was done through that. And it was like, at first, you think, oh, it's going to be a place to help move storylines along. But then series 24 and 25, series 24 more than 25, you've got quite a heavy storyline in that one when the racism kicked on. Now, I've talked, like when Renee Montemayor was on, I spoke about how they'd done racism before, but it was always like pupil on pupil racism. This was like adults, and like far right thugs, if you want to use that expression. There was campaigners outside, and they'd had a few run-ins with like the sixth formers, because the sixth form was quite really diverse at that point. And these campaigners were sitting in the cafe, and Claire turned up and said to Ray, "Why are you letting them in here? They're racist." And Ray's, again, a bit like the voice of reason, saying, "Look, just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean someone can't have their own opinion. We believed in freedom of speech and all that." But Claire walked out the cafe, but she soon returned with Bryony's brother, Steve. And that's when those campaigns, they actually made proper racist comments, and that's when Ray hears it for the first time. And Ray jumps in saying, he wouldn't have that sort of language and those comments being made in his cafe. And the other six formers at that point turn up, and Ray kicks the racists out of the cafe. And one of them said to Ray that he'd be sorry. And Ray, eventually, he told the police, and the racists were arrested for not only what he'd said, but like other things that they'd been doing. There'd been a robbery, or the band's equipment had been stolen or smashed up, and they were able to match fingerprints up and stuff like that. So they weren't just arrested because they'd been racist. It was other things going on that they'd done. But as that series was ending, that's when they all turned up at the cafe.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts, like they're smashing the cafe up, and Ray gets really badly beaten up. I don't think we actually saw any punches or any kicks landing.
They were very conscious about that. You couldn't see any major physical abuse. It was just, it was psychological.
But like saying there, by series 20, people are saying, or series 24, 25, it was losing its way a little bit and all that. But still, to be showing stuff like that in a kids' TV program, the fact that there are adults out there who are thinking like that and acting like that as well. Nothing else on kids' TV was showing stuff like that. So, like you say, we see the series ends with Ray face down in the cafe.
And that was so for me, as I say, when I went back in, I didn't think that I'd be getting any. I genuinely thought I'm gonna, not a bit part, but I was just I'm gonna be there as the wallpaper to kind of add some context to some of the conversations that are actually going on. And then to read that, and I got the EastEnders, the bit. I was like, gee, and it was the end of the series, and I remember filming it where I'm laying on the floor and there's glass. They covered me, well, it wasn't glass, but kind of supposed to be glass, and tables were all around me, and it just panned out. And then it goes to the end, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
This was more than I was expecting.
And then series 25, then we know that you weren't in it as much. I think it was only 4 or 5 episodes at that point. But the attack left Ray in a wheelchair.
So there's a story behind that.
Yeah.
So they asked me to come back for the series 25, and I said, I'm so lazy, I don't want to walk. I want you to wheel me in and wheel me out, or I'm not doing it.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That's a joke, by the way. And there's a couple of scenes that I kept joking in it because I'd be talking and then I'd cross my legs on purpose.
But like, we didn't see Ray until halfway through the series, and it was because Lisa had been attacked and had kind of become like agoraphobic, scared to leave the house and stuff. So Cracker sent Ray round to go and see her, and he had a chat with her and saying about how he wasn't going to let the wheelchair define who he was. Quite profound stuff, to be honest. Like saying, for someone who'd been so active and so mobile to suddenly be like that, well, look, I'm not going to let it stop me.
Yeah, and they were very conscious of that. I don't know if when they first asked me to go back that this was something they had planned, because I don't know. But I don't know if they went for the most lively character that they could think of to put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was something, or whether the writers just hated me even more than normal and just thought they'd stick me in a wheelchair.
Let's give him a kick and stick him in a wheelchair.
What else can we do? Oh, I know what we can do. We can blow him up at the end of the year as well, because he can't get out.
It's all like, he goes and sees Lisa, because Lisa still hadn't given a statement to the police. She wouldn't, because she was that scared. So Ray eventually convinces that, you've got to go and tell the police about what's happened. And she did. So Ray went with her. We see Lisa pushing him in the chair.
Oh, yeah. We're going to walk.
You weren't in it much, but was it easy to get the hang of the wheelchair? Like,
yeah, I was quite good in it. I could wheelie and everything.
Why am I not surprised?
But it was because I'd been in Grange Hill for so long by that time, and I'd seen so many different guises of Grange Hill.
Yeah.
at that time, I was kind of, the reality TV stuff was just starting to appear,
Yeah.
and kind of they were really trying to bring something to Grange Hill, and it wasn't that it was the beginning of the end, but it kind of was
Yeah.
at that time, and there was the feeling was there. Everyone kind of knew that it was where can they take this now,
Yeah.
because they were under so many restrictions,
Yeah.
that we're going back to the 70s, and then they were allowed more than we were then, and there were so many restrictions for children's TV that to go there back there in Series 25 was kind of, you really kind of started to feel where is this going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it, it all, I was just saying there, it's ending. And so you knew that it was coming to the end of Elstree, did you? Did you know it was
Yeah,
going to be the end of it there?
yeah.
Because bits of it do seem a little bit rushed. There was the bit where Miss Fraser was getting engaged to Mr. Barton. And for some reason, Ray was invited to their engagement party, the
Random.
engagement barbecue. And that's when Mr. Robson had told Miss Carver how he was feeling about it. And, he was saying to Ray, confiding in Ray, for obviously Ray had been there with the alcohol with him.
Yeah.
But he's confiding in Ray, maybe I've done the wrong thing by telling her. And it's Ray again, the voice of reason. But look, you were honest. That's
Who would
all.
have thought of that 10 years earlier?
Yeah. And then Ray was right saying, that was all that mattered, because Mr. Robson and Miss Carver ended up getting married. And for some reason, they had their wedding at the school. And of course,
it's a cheap pull, wasn't it?
Yeah, because of course they had it in the school. And all the school kids were invited as well for some reason. But at the wedding, it came out that Mr. Deverell wasn't who he was. He was caught out, but he started a fire that burnt the school down. As you said, it blew up. Now, we never actually found out what happened to Ray. But what do you think happened?
Oh, I'm dead. I'm as dead as Dodo. I actually wanted the end of the series to be my wheelchair on its side with just the wheel going round. But they wouldn't let me do it.
Just add that little bit more drama into it. Millions, millions. And then, so after Grange Hill, obviously, like when you were not, those 5 years where you weren't in Grange Hill, you were still acting. And you were in, Casualty and The Bill. I noticed 3 different characters in The Bill, 2 different characters in Casualty.
Why not? I'm good at blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
I've blown Casualty up twice now.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And is your IMDb page right? I haven't said this for a while, but I know IMDb isn't the most reliable source of information. There's my catchphrase. Are you in Rock and Roller?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
That. All right. I know you're an established actor at this point, but to turn up with that cast, that must have been.
Yeah. I mean, so what happened was I left Grange Hill, and I was kind of I'm not saying it was an epiphany, but I'm 30 by now, and I'd kind of been acting since I was 11. I really hadn't done anything but acting, and I just decided I wanted to move away from it, really.
Right.
And so I'm saying I moved away from it. I set up a production company, and that's really what I was doing. We were doing productions and stuff, and mates of mine would make films, and I'd just jump in it and do stuff, and then we'd do I was doing a lot of plays and stuff, and a lot of theatre stuff, but I was really staying away from the acting world. And then a friend of mine rung me totally out of the blue and said, look, my agent has just got this part come up for Rock and Roller, for a Guy Ritchie film, and they feel that there's a guy in it that's right for you. Would you go on the agency so they can put you forward? And I went, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So they put me up for it, and it was for a quite a low role, not really anybody really in it. I didn't really have a name, so I went for the part, and then they moved me up, and I was one of the I was Danny. I was one of the guys.
Yeah.
I was one of the guys, and it was great. I mean, I knew a couple of the guys already. I've known Tom Hardy a long time. I still speak to Tom now. I became really good friends with Idris from it. I'm good friends with Gerard now. Just a lovely, it was brilliant to do. It was just brilliant.
It must be, you've mentioned some there, Gerard Butler and Tandy Newton and Mark
Yeah.
Strong and
Oh
all
mate,
that. Like,
she's so beautiful. You can't really talk to her because she's like a doll.
right.
She just looks like a living doll. She's too pretty. She can't be that pretty.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And then I've noticed that you mentioned the production company and there's a
Yeah, yeah,
associate producer on Crooks, was it called?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That was an American show we did.
but there's nothing else on
Yeah.
IMDb after that. So, what have you been doing in all that time?
So I've got the production company and I'm a film financer now.
Right.
So I finance. However, in 2004 I had my first daughter, and in 2006 I had my second daughter, and so I counted my pennies
Right.
and I decided I was going to retire.
Right. Wow.
So I became, which is what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
I became a stay-at-home dad.
Brilliant.
And so I did that until they went to secondary. And then I was still doing stuff. I was still doing contracts for various people. And a friend of mine was doing a film, and I went on set, and then the guy forgot his lines, and they were losing money. So I said, "Oh, get me a suit, I'll do it." So I went on and done
Yeah.
his part. So I've been around it, but there's a lot happening this year. So I am putting my acting chops back together,
Brilliant.
and I'm doing 3 films this year.
Amazing. Are you allowed
Hence
to
the
tell
beard.
us any of them?
Hence the beard.
Are you allowed to tell us any of them?
So there's one we're hoping to go. We should be filming in the next 6 to 8 weeks, called Picasso Before Breakfast,
Right.
and that's what this is for.
You got
So
to, yeah.
it's a fun thing. I'm financing it. My friend Nick Moran, who was in Lock Stock, he's
Yeah.
directing it. So he's going to direct it, and then it's kind of it's the British version of Ocean's 11.
Right. Brilliant. Brilliant.
But we're all old folk. We're all old people that can't run anymore. We can't. So it's going to be a bit of fun. We're going to film it in the UK somewhere. So I'm just putting it together now with Nick, and then I've got two others which I can't mention because they're for
Right.
studios.
Right.
But yeah. So
Fair play.
I haven't acted for, I don't know, 8 years. I guess seven,
Yeah.
8 years.
It'll never leave you, though, will it? Never leaves you, surely.
Do you know what? It's hard. It is hard. I mean, I don't. It never really bothered me. And it's only when I go on set or I go and I'm standing there thinking, oh, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always said my career was always luck. There was no talent involved. Purely, it was just pure luck. I was in the right place, right time, talking to the right people, and I talked myself into a lot of roles, I think.
I don't know. I think you're doing yourself a disservice there, mate, to be honest. But you've said this, so you go on set and you do get the bug, do you? Like, for it.
Yeah, it's hard. It is. It's when I was bringing the girls up, it didn't bother me at all. Because because Rock and Roll was in 2008, so I'd had my girls by then,
Yeah.
and it was never I was never, not saying never going to go back to it, but it was very much my girls, and doing that for my girls and just being there, was my main aim. That's all I wanted to do. And then when that came up, and then I was on it for, I think it was 4 months I was on it, um,
Yeah.
and then I came off, and it kind of cemented I can't be away from them for four
Yeah.
months. I know it sounds silly and people think I'm crazy, but it was just, I just want, because I've seen so many of my friends that are actors that just haven't been around for their kids, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not because they don't want. It's just you just don't get the
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I'm a bit sad and soppy, but anyway.
No, but like if you as you say you're getting the bug for it there. I mean, it must be hard because like my favorite band is Madness, and Suggs is like my all-time hero. We went to see him. We went to see him in like a one-man show, and he was saying when Madness stopped, he became the manager of the Farm. The Liverpool band.
Yeah,
He,
yeah,
he was
yeah.
their manager, and he said he'd be watching a show, and he'd be at the back with the sound engineer and that, and he'd think, I don't want to be here. I want to, I want to be on stage where they are,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's one of the reasons why Madness got back together is because he was like, I
I can
can't do,
believe it.
I
Yeah,
can't do this. I want to be back doing that.
yeah, yeah. It's hard because when you're on set, and then you've cast it or someone else has cast it, and you start seeing people coming on stage on doing their work, and you think you don't know our craft. You haven't earned your stripes, and you shouldn't be, and
yeah,
I'm looking at, I know some phenomenal actors, and I'm just like, that you shouldn't be there.
yeah,
How,
yeah.
I don't know how you've got it, but you shouldn't. And so then you start thinking, I should have done that. It'd have been easier. I'm cheaper than they are,
Brilliant,
and I'll do
brilliant.
it.
Now, something I never asked you before about Grange Hill.
Sure.
When you were there, you must have been older than a lot of the people you were working with. Uh,
Uh, so Des is 2 years younger than
right.
me. Paul, I think, is 2 years younger than me. I think, yeah, they were all about 2, 3 years
So,
younger than me.
so who would you said was your best friend then on set at the time? Like,
Or I don't know if we can say this. It was hard because as I said earlier, when I first came into it, there was a lot of he's trying to take over from Sean, and
yeah,
it was never my intention. It was never something I ever wanted to do. I didn't even know Sean. I mean, I know Sean now,
yeah,
but it was never my intention. All I was told was that was my job. My job was to come in, and basically, because Sean had done such a good job, was to just put some smoke and mirrors up, so no
yeah,
one actually, hopefully, will forget Sean as quick as possible, so they could then get on with the next
yeah,
series with the others. And I never, I mean, I knew Des quite well, but I wouldn't, and we were friends. I wouldn't say, we were all friends, but I wouldn't say I would, Rebecca Gilgan, I'd say, was one of my close friends
right,
on
yeah, yeah,
there. Just the most beautiful soul. It was one of her first shows she'd ever been in, so there was a lot of nerves. She'd come down from up north. We
hmm,
became very good friends. Sonia, me and Sonia were quite friendly for a while.
yeah,
I'll leave it there. Yeah, I mean, it was just very. It was yeah. There was a quite early on. There was quite a lot of
right,
that I was trying to step
yeah,
on people's toes, and it was never ever my intention that
yeah,
was it. It was just the way it went.
yeah,
It was just how it was. So
yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't say any of them were ever my best. I mean, Denzel obviously.
yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, Kelly, we are coming towards the end of.
What I haven't told you about, you just mentioned about me burning the toast on the
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead, go for it.
We did that for real. We're on. It'll be all right on the night. I did
Brilliant.
actually burn the toast, and we're on. It'll be. I forgot. We would chat. I'd put the toast on, and we were going through lines, and I'd forgot, and I'd left the toast on, and they had to get the fire brigade in to put it out. So that's on. It'll be all right on the night. So I still get a little check every now and
I
again
love
from them,
that.
which I quite like.
I love that. Because Melissa was on recently, Melissa Wilkes, and
Oh,
she
Melissa
said
Wilkes.
she used to get something like 27p every time Grand Prix was on. It'll be all
Same
right
as
on
me.
the night.
I'm the
Yeah,
same with the toast.
yeah. Um, now, there was something else just before we do finish. You mentioned your friend Russell from Sylvia Young's, right? Now I know he wasn't in Grange Hill, but you were on. Sylvia Young's was the subject of a documentary for Splash. Splash was like a children's magazine program,
Okay, I believe you. I don't know.
and there's a bit where they were following a girl called Jane Horn. They were
I know
following,
Jane very
yeah.
well.
So they were following her. It was like her story, basically. And there's a scene in a class where there's you're in it, Des is in it, Jane Horn's in it. There's a few more, and I'm sure Russell's the other lad in it. He had like a centre part, and
Good looking bastard.
yeah,
Oh, so I'm allowed to swear. Sorry.
yeah, you're all right with that. That's not a problem. And there's a bit where one of the exercises you're doing it was word association, but you had to do like a dance, like a rhythm thing as well. And I've only mentioned it because Des is before you, and Des says
Probably.
fire while you're doing the dance, and the word you tried to associate was distinguish, not extinguish, distinguish. And that's only, but Russell's in that scene as well.
Yeah.
As well, like
Yeah.
that.
Well, me and Russell, yeah.
Only reason I thought I need to mention that one to him. Like,
Oh, I've never seen it, but probably I was.
it's on YouTube. That one. They show all kinds, and it's really for someone that's never been in that world. It's really interesting to see, the bit where they have the choirs there, and Denise Van Outen's there at the time,
Yeah.
and Samantha Wolbach, and
Well, Sam was one of the other was one of the ones on that drug thing.
all
She
right,
was one of the
okay.
other. She was one of the other four.
Oh, brilliant. there.
got filmed because I'd got it wrong, so they got what they needed.
Yeah, right, okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, our school was mad. I mean,
Yeah.
just completely bonkers. But I was crap at everything. And I reckon that's why I got stuff, because I was just useless.
But honestly, it's on YouTube. It's called Splash Special School
I'll
for
have to watch it.
Stars. School for Stars, it's called. But yeah, it's
I won't know, because I won't, because I've told my kids that I was really good at stuff. So I'm not going to tell them that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, so now we're coming to the end of the interview, and I've got a few questions. It's always the same few questions I always ask at the end of every interview.
Should I have watched this before this?
So no, it's not a test. Don't worry. It's
not
an exam or anything like that. So
okay.
Over the last couple of years, there has been talk, or there was talk of a Grange Hill movie in the works. We haven't heard anything for ages. Phil Redmond's apparently written it. Sarah Sugarman is going to be directing it, but we haven't heard anything for ages. Obviously, it's all down to funding, like everything, like you'll know. But what do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
Terrible.
Really?
Yeah, I just think it's that whole thing, isn't it? I got offered to fund Goonies 2, and I was like, if I fund it and mess it up, can you imagine?
Yeah, yeah.
So I never do it, and it's one of those things. Grange Hill was phenomenal.
Yeah,
it was, and it can never be replaced.
Right.
It can never be replaced, and I don't know what anyone would get out of it. I don't know who's going to go and see it, because it's not going to be us. I'd go, but it's not going to be us.
Yeah.
So who is the audience? I think let it rest of the brilliance that it was.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there completely. Because my next question is normally, if you were asked, would we see the return of your character? But I'm guessing I already know the answer to that one.
Well, I don't know if they wheeled me in, if we could do a deal,
or even the ghost of Ray Haynes.
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Danny Cunningham went back as a ghost. So okay, then. So you've said you were a fan. And it was going to Sylvia Young's was unreal, because you're with all these people like you've seen in Grange Hill and other things. So other than Ray Haynes, who was your favourite character in Grange Hill?
No, you can't ask me that. I can't diss on Ray. I mean, I've always said it, and I said it when I was in it. We should all bow at the bloody altar of Todd Carty.
Right.
If Todd hadn't done what he'd done all those years ago, I don't believe that Grange Hill would have lasted as long as it did.
Right. Yeah.
I know Todd, and yeah, we should. Was I be so bold and to say Tucker? Would I? I don't know. I mean, there were so many little characters in it that I liked. I always thought Pogo Patterson was a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what? Solid Tucker.
Brilliant. Yeah. If you couldn't have played Ray, is there another character you would have liked to have played?
Tucker. That's the only one.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? I'm as bold as brass. Why not? But as I say, without Todd and what he did in those early days, Grange Hill wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. It was just phenomenal what he achieved in those first few years to be able to make a show that lasted so long just on the back of him, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, then. So the final question, Kelly, is why do you think there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
Wow. I should have done some research on this. Why? I think when we were kids, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have what people have got today.
Yeah.
And I think if you were having a hard time at school, if you were having a hard time in your life, you could switch on Grange Hill, and whether it be one of the big characters or whether it be one of the side characters, there would be someone in there that you felt that was you and that had the same issues, the same problems, and you could see how they were dealing with it and that you're not alone.
Yeah.
God, I'm getting deep, aren't I? But I think that was why, because, there was always someone that you could go in there and say, I felt like that today, or
Yeah.
someone was mean to me at school today, or someone said I was fat today, and you'd look on there and go, you know what, they're getting through it, and if they can get through it, so can I.
Yeah.
And I can see how they're doing in their lives. And I think people don't forget that. People go through life and realize what that show did for people. And I think that's why there's such an empathy for it now. And it was all of us. We were all, as I say, someone in that show represented you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many people still love it.
Brilliant. Well, Kelly, thank you so much I've already said it once, for finally coming on Sausage on a Fork. This has been, I don't know what, 2 years in the making, is it? Something like that.
You have no idea how many people keep ringing me and going, are you going to do this thing? And I'm like, I will. I just haven't got time. And I was like, who wants to talk to me? No one wants to talk to me.
Well, I know I'm going to give me props to Sonia and to David Crane as well, because I know they've both been on it. Yeah, I know they've messaged it in the past and said about
and Fiona.
It, like,
she's been on my case.
Fiona, that's as well as she. Brilliant. Well done. So thank you to all those people for that. But no, honestly, it's been great talking to you and hearing your experience, not just on Grange Hill, but in the industry in general as well. It's been brilliant speaking to you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. So thank you.
I haven't heard what anyone else's were like, but I hope I've kind of added some fun and some spice to.
Definitely, you've told us things here that we haven't heard before. So
oh, sugar. Oh, lucky we didn't get too deep into it then.
Brilliant. No, honestly, thanks. Honestly, it's been brilliant talking to you. So thank you once again for coming on. And
you're more than welcome. And I must say that, from the guys I do speak to every now and again from Grange Hill, I think we should all thank you for what you're doing to keep what we did alive, and that it means a lot to us, although you don't get to speak to us as much. But within the community of actors, I do know that you're very, very well thought of.
Thank you very much.
From me personally, I'd like to say thank you for work that I did those years ago, keeping it alive for us.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you very much. That really does. You've knocked me now. You've got me speechless here. I might have to cut that bit out. But no, honestly, thank you once again. It's been great speaking to you, and to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers.
No problem, mate. Anytime you want to talk.
Bye.
Take care, buddy.